Good evening from the Kenwood Radio Shack. Hi, I'm Mark Haynes, call sign Mike 0 Delta X-Ray Romeo. I'm the UK Sales Manager here at Kenwood, and we're broadcasting to you live from Kenwood headquarters in London. You can contact us at any point during this webinar by either Facebook at Kenwood Ham Radio or Twitter at Kenwood Ham Radio, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. I'm joined here this evening by two guests. Tony, Mike 0 Tango November Yankee, also has a Gibraltar call sign, Zulu Bravo 2 Tango Yankee, and he's from Martin Lynch & Sons. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening.
And also Gavin, Mike 1 Bravo X-Ray Foxtrot, who's an avid VHF, UHF operator. You may have heard Gavin on many de-expeditions with the cam hams from various IOTAs across the UK, but also on UK activity contests on 2 metres, 77s, etc.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us, Gavin.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So we're here this evening to talk about Kenwood's TH-D74. The radio has been on the market now for around 12 months. It replaces the TH-F7 transceiver. It does follow some of the features of the F7, for instance, the wide capability for receive on HF through to UHF, but also it has many additional features, for instance the digital capability of D-Star and APRS capability. It does continue to have that wide reception from HF through to UHF with a very high quality receiver. And the D74 has such a wide range of functions and capabilities, so we will touch on as much as we can during this webinar. There will be many features that we don't cover. If you do have questions, we will try to cover them tonight. If we can't get through all the questions, then we will address them after the webinar. So, Gavin, you've used the TH-D74 quite a few times now, and I know that you were quite impressed when you first used the radio. Could you tell me a bit about your impressions when you actually physically first used the handset?
Yeah, so I started using the radio a number of months back, not long after it was released. I was asked to do the review for Radcom, and there was a number of features that got my attention, namely so the APRS and D-Star in a single radio, which is something I've been after for a while. If we look at the first slide here, you can see some of the top level features that I found extremely useful for it. So it's got a colour screen which does make navigating and doing a quick glance at the radio much easier. So in colour you can tell a lot more features or status easier than just a monochrome screen. It has USB connectivity, so programming from the computer and such like is quite easy. There's more on that later on. For memories, it's got an SD card, and one of the good things with that is it can actually record audio, QSO audio, and various other aspects in the radio, which can be looked at later on, screenshots as you can see from the presentation here being some of them. The GPS built into it is actually much better than most of the other handhelds I've used as well. One of the first things I noticed was even indoors, it would get a GPS fix much quicker than what I was expecting from a radio of the similar sort of make or features. And the usual things like being able to group your memories into different groups that allows you to have repeaters on one group and maybe simplex channels on another, or a range of other frequencies that you can quickly select and then just scan through that small number of memories makes it really useful. There's still a lot of radios on the market that don't have features like that, which is quite annoying. And obviously the wideband RX was one of the big things that I got sold on it. As Mark touched on, I do quite a lot of contesting and operating in the VHF, UHF band, but also HF, and having the wideband receive for on-air signal monitoring has been really useful. It saves me carrying another radio. I've usually got the handheld on me anyway for talking on local repeaters and such like. So being able to monitor our own signal using just the handheld as well on any mode has been really useful. In addition to that was the Bluetooth as well. So Bluetooth, you can do audio and you can actually do serial control. So again, we'll touch on it later on, but the memory program can communicate with the radio via Bluetooth, which means you don't even need to have a USB cable in sight.
It really helps having you here, Gavin, as such an avid user of the radio and on the VHF, UHF bands. And so APRS, the radio supports APRS. What is it about, as a user of APRS for you, what is it about the D74 that allows you to use APRS effectively? Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's got all the features of APRS, not only just about the beaconing, so it's got smart beaconing. You can set a period for the beaconing. Smart beaconing just very quickly as it changes its beacon rate based on your speed. If you see the slide again with some of the top level features, the radio can be used as a TNC itself, so again using the USB cable or even Bluetooth. You can connect it to a PC or compatible computer for doing APRS or even packet in the old days. As part of your beacon text, you can announce what your second band is on. So if I was listening to a local repeater or had a simplex frequency on the second VFO, then my APRS beacon would send that, and anyone who looked at the beacon could then program their radio with that frequency and give me a call, which is quite really useful. There's a few little features like APRS lock, and it's little things like this that actually got my attention with the radio, and probably one of the silly reasons why I bought it. It seems such a little feature, but what it allows you to do is if you've got APRS running on one of the VFOs, you can lock it by frequency in PTT. So when you've got if you go onto that VFO, you can't accidentally transmit voice on it. Previous models of radio that I've owned which have APRS, the only way to avoid that was to lock the whole radio, which meant the second VFO was not accessible at that point. Whereas in the Kenwood, you can just effectively, the VFO that's running APRS is locked, so you can still use the other VFO as normal. Messaging is the other big area of the D74 that I found really useful. The built-in APRS messaging, I guess think about it like text messaging, but over the APRS network, and that is something I've used quite a lot and like to use more. And previous radios I've owned that support APRS haven't had that feature, so that was really useful, and I use that quite a lot. If we look at the next slide about the APRS objects, so in addition to all that, there's quite a lot of information displayed from an APRS beacon, so there can be up to 4 pages of information, which I mentioned before, is the tune frequency. You can see the top left image. It's got a frequency and a tone, and if I went into tune that, the image below it, the bottom left, it would program the VFO, the other VFO from APRS to that frequency and tone, which means I could then use that repeater or such like. Obviously, it gives you bearing and distance, which is all quite nice. And again, with it being all colour, this is what I mentioned before. At a quick glance, you can sort of pick out the various points. If that was in monochrome, you have to sort of look at it a few times to look at what's going on. So that's something that's very useful, and I use probably quite a lot if I've got the radio in the car and just want to know where a friend is. I've used it before to find a friend's house when you just want to know where they are from a beacon point of view. And if we see on the final slide, we talk a bit more about the messaging. As I say, it's a bit like text messaging, so you put in a 2, and that's generally a call sign. You could obviously put in a V as well, and then your message, you just type it on the keypad like a normal text message would be, and then you send it and you get an acknowledgement that it's gone through. It saves a big history of messages as well, so if someone sends you a message, you can just click on it and reply directly to them, which is very useful. And as you can see on the right hand side of that image, when I was doing the initial evaluation of the radio, we used the APRS messaging to get a message to a station, 2M0ROT, to connect a link up where we couldn't do it by voice, whereas APRS message going through a digi made it. So APRS messaging can be quite useful.
Thank you, Gavin. That's a really interesting insight to APRS from you personally. So arguably the most important feature about this radio is that it supports D-Star, the digital D-Star mode. Tell me a little bit about the programming of D-Star. How is the radio easy to program for D-Star operation?
Yes, there's not a lot of programming needs to be done, to be perfectly honest with the radio. It comes supplied with a memory file from Kenwood, which has a worldwide database of all the repeaters. If we again go back to the slides here, you can see some of the top level features of it. So it's the first Kenwood to support D-Star, and as I mentioned before, the fact that it has D-Star and APRS in a single radio, for me was one of the reasons that the D74 was as attractive for me to buy. Other radios have got GPS in them that do D-Star but not APRS, which has been a bit of a bugbear, but it's nice to see it in a radio finally. Kenwood have also simplified D-Star slightly by providing it sort of in two modes. There's DV mode, which is designed for simplex communication, where you're not routing through any repeater, you're just using it to do simplex chat, so most of the call sign information isn't used, which makes it very easy to use. And then there's a DR mode, which uses the repeaters, and this is where the programming aspects comes in. So as I say, Kenwood supply you a memory file, which is at the moment about 1,600 repeaters globally, and you can filter down by them by first by continent, and then by country, and then by sort of region, is one way to find them. Additionally, you can use the built-in GPS, or if you've programmed a fixed location instead of GPS, you can use that to find your local repeaters. And that's very simple to do by just pressing the down arrow on the screen, and it gives you an option to find your local repeaters. And when we tested that here at Kenwood HQ, we found digital repeaters that were 12 kilometres away up to 109 kilometres, at least the nearest 20. And if you press the up button, you get a similar set of options to where you want to talk to. So you use the down arrow to program your local repeater, and then you use the up arrow to tell it where you want to talk to within D-Star. It's the your call. So if I wanted to connect my radio from a local repeater to one in Germany, I can use the down arrow to program the local repeater and press the up arrow to say the German repeater, and that sets up the link very simply. Also within the settings is an option that does very similar to finding your local repeaters, but it scans it. So you can say scan local repeaters, and if you were just new to the area, it lets you know which ones are active, which is all very nice, and that's all from very simple button presses.
That's very interesting. And on the repeater side, Tony, I guess you probably see this to some extent in the shop. When people are asking about using D-Star, they may be saying, "Well, I haven't got a local repeater. How do I use D-Star?" You can use dongles and such.
Yeah,
like,
we get a lot of requests from customers where they're calling in. They want to join D-Star. The HF bands haven't been brilliant as of late, so they want to take the D-Star route. Let's go digital. Still want to have a rag tube with someone in another country. Catch up with the culture, etc. So yeah, easy way of doing it is.
So you can offer products to assist with that.
Yeah, basically we offer sort of DV dongles, etc. So DV4 Mini, Shark Open Spots, and also the Blue Stack now, which is very, very popular. So with the Blue Stack, you can run, say, your TH-D74 along with an Android phone or an iOS phone, and just small stack, as long as you've got an internet connection, it's a complete package. So you're taking your repeater with you, really.
I guess the low power option of the 50 milliwatt output power is quite useful in that scenario, because it conserves the battery, and you only really need to connect within your own property, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. And the good thing is, a lot of the sort of DV dongle devices, very, very sensitive front end. So the last thing you want to do, you've got it in your backpack, you want to keep the power down low.
Okay, thanks, Tony. So, memory programming, software, that scary word, Gavin.
Yeah.
How is that achieved with the D74?
Yeah, there's the modern radios having so many memory channels and features, it becomes very difficult to program them all by hand. Thankfully, Kenwood have released a piece of software, the MCP D74, as we'll see in the slide. We can't really do a full demo of it here. But I'm sure there's other ones, other YouTube videos, etc., that cover it. But this allows you to edit and program the 1,000 memories which are user programmable. So the user gets 1,000 memories to play with, which can be grouped again by, you can decide how you want to group them. So you can group all the simplex channels as simplex. So when you set the radio to that group, then that's all that you scan, or that's all that you access. But on top of that, as I mentioned before, Kenwood supply a D-Star memory list And that's updated quite frequently. It's about, say, 1,600 or so D-Star repeaters. And that's, again, downloadable free from the Kenwood website. And you use the MCP software to update the radio with that. You can also use the SD card. You can put the memory file on the SD card as well and upload it that way. But the MCP program's much easier. In addition to the memories, it allows you to update and modify all the settings of the radio, everything from the APRS call sign to the beacon rate to any repeater setting, even the Kenwood file list you can modify if you wish. And the Kenwood list comes with the repeaters with all the GPS coordinates as well. So
the software has to be used for adding new repeaters, for instance, to use the software?
It makes it easier, but you can do it from the radio quite happily, as people will be familiar with. With the Kenwood file, you just download it, and as I say, that just gives you the whole global D-Star repeater list. And then you just use your GPS, the built-in GPS, to say, give me my local repeaters. So you don't even have to think about it. We
had a question in from IK2PIX. Very nice to know that Italy are joining us this evening. Thank you very much. Asking, is there any way to add a new D-Star repeater from the keyboard of the transceiver? Sounds like
yes,
it's possible. From
you again, you just pick the the DR mode, put in all the my call, the RPT1, RPT2, and the your call, and then just save it as normal. And yeah, that's pretty simple and straightforward.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
I was going to say, I've also read on the spec sheet that you can remote control the radio as well with the software. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is one of the nice features again of the radio. When I mentioned before that it can do wideband RX, or Mark mentioned it as well, but I use it for that. One of the things it actually does is it can output 12 kilohertz of IF. Again, if we just look at the slide, again, we can't demo the program here, but the APRS D74 frequency control program allows you to effectively use the radio as a receiver. You can pick the mode, the frequency, and if you choose the IF output mode, you get 12 kilohertz of IF audio. Now, it's not a lot, but it's enough to listen to a lot of the CW section or the data mode section or a small portion of the SSB section. And in the demonstration here, we've outputted it to HD SDR, and you can see multiple SSB signals that come out from that. One of the nice things about it is you can also control that by Bluetooth. So you can control the frequency by Bluetooth, and you can have the audio coming out the speaker, say, which is quite nice, because it means you can have the radio in the corner or tucked away in the boot of the car or whatever, and have a laptop in the front controlling it. So and these are all free downloads, so it really adds extra functionality to the handheld, and especially the receiver capability is fantastic.
Okay, is that fine to use with a Windows tablet as well?
Yeah, I use it with a little Lynx 8 Windows tablet,
yes,
and it works fine with that. So that's generally how I use it for portable.
Yeah, I've one the same as well, which I use with a DV4, again, to use as a D-Star node. So.
Yeah, so that's how I would do it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you've got a D74 there, Gavin. I wonder if we could quickly have a look at this picture. You're sitting on a sandy beach in a tropical location. You think, I wonder what's happening on 20 metres. Can you show us how you switch to 20 metres sideband and have a little tune around?
Let's see if we can get the camera to focus in on this. So let's come back to VFO. So you would just then type the frequency 14. Let's get that right. Enter 014. Oh no, we're in the wrong frequency band at the moment, which is the problem. Let's solve that one. Memory 014. What are we looking at here?
200.
170. Let's say 200 as a demo. So you can hear we're in USB at the moment, and if we
CQ20 CQ Golf X-ray 0 Tango Kilo Uniform CQ20 over.
No, unfortunately I can't reply, but that's that's
day.
not so bad.
One day.
Yeah, so that's how easy it is to program from the keypad. That's and the audio there is exceptional, and just you get the different modes. So you've got USB, CW, AM, FM, and you can go down to fine, or in this case we're in wide settings, and here just got your narrow, and then you can change your steps as well, right the way down to 20 Hertz tuning which is really useful for the CW modes anyway.
How do you find the screen? Is the quality of the screen up to standard?
Yeah. As I say, I have trouble with eyesight at times, so colour's a real useful thing for me. And as I mentioned before, with the APRS, when you've got the compass and a few other things, it's really useful. It just highlights certain aspects of the screen for me. Monochromes are okay, and a lot of people try and say that colour screens are a gimmick, but I don't think so. I think you can convey a lot more information from colour on the screen with colour than you can a monochrome.
Right, thank you, Kevin. So, Tony, from a retail point of view, you obviously spend a lot of your time in the shop and talking to customers and helping customers choose which radio is right for them. What is it that customers are looking for? What's the response from customers on the D74?
Okay, initially, uptake, fairly slow to begin with. People are a bit wary, as you said, it's a colour screen. Does it need to have this? Does it need to have APRS, etc.? Thanks to people like Gavin, that have used it, shown YouTube videos, etc. The uptake now is just unbelievable for a handheld of that value. What we find as well is a lot of guys are upgrading because they've decided that they can use, or they found out they can use their old accessories along with the D74 as well. So it's not a big expenditure to them. They can still keep the D72, for example. So if they want that to go hiking and if they drop it, etc., it's fine. And they're using the D74 sort of as their new shiny radio. But yeah, it's been a very good uptake with it. And D-Star, the comments we always get is the audio is just superb on D-Star. I've got a lot of guys that operate D-Star on a regular basis, and they've all called in, they've all bought D74s because they've heard the audio, and it's a signature, it's a Kenwood signature audio on the D74, and yeah, it's proved to be a really good seller.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that when I was doing my early reviews as well. That was one of the first comments I got back after doing a simplex test, was that the audio sounded extremely well, which I didn't think would be possible over a digital mode. You can obviously tailor audio a little bit, but you can certainly tell that the audio quality is superior.
So straight away.
You can tell who's on a Kenwood.
I know there is a lot of work that goes in from the development team on getting that audio just right.
Yeah.
And it's very, very good to hear that.
It's not got a digital sound to it. That's the thing. I would say it sounds analog, but it's just got a clean signal to it. So yeah, it's beautiful.
So for operators that are visually impaired in some way, or blind operators, is it a good radio? What's the feeling from the users on that?
Very good feedback. The latest software updates, the voice control system, notifications, etc. Got quite a few white stick customers, obviously, and RAOBC are supporting the radio. So yeah.
We had a question actually from Mike 6 Golf Yankee Tango. Thank you very much for your question, asking about whether the D74 has voice announcements for blind operators.
The answer is yes.
And the answer is yes, it does, and we're very proud of that, and put a lot of effort into to try and ensure that is supported on our transceivers. Accessories. What comes with the radio, and what can I get to go alongside my fantastic radio?
As a standard, obviously antenna, your charger, plug in the wall warts, and the manual as well. If I remember rightly, I think there's a belt clip in there.
There's a belt clip,
To be honest, it's been a while because they're going out so quickly. It's been a while that I've managed to open a box and actually sort of have a look for myself. With regards to accessories, you've got speaker mics, so you've got the classic SMC34s example, SMC32s. Fast chargers are available. What we will say is, if you are looking for a fast charger, make sure you get the right part number. There's a few with the same sort of part number, but just give us a call. We can give a bit of guidance, and it's on the Kenwood website.
And of course, recently we made available the SC57 soft case, which
the long-awaited
is absolutely it's now available, and there's plenty of stock at our dealers. So that's a nice addition to a D74.
It needs to be done for a radio of that value. It's you need the case to go with it, definitely.
I mean, the radio itself is waterproof and dustproof by default, but that doesn't stop it being scuffed and marked.
I'll take it it's waterproof as well?
It's IP54-55 rated.
Yeah.
So it's got a good level of waterproof there.
You don't mind using it in the rain.
Certainly splash proof.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend submersing it in water.
I've always wondered. I was going to say how you'd actually operate underwater with a radio would be an interesting test.
I believe there's a guy called Steve that will be happy with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming to the end now, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of our viewers around the world. I think we probably have people watching from North America, South America, around Europe. Maybe not too many from the Far East because of the timing, but hopefully that will change as we upload this to our cloud. It becomes available after this live webinar. So thank you very much for joining us. From all of us here at Kenwood 73, and we will answer any questions that we haven't got to. We will follow up with very soon. Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
73s.